So happy birthday to Darren.
Thanks.
It's his special day today. How lovely that we each get to have a special day that, of course, isn't special at all. Don't go around telling people that birthdays aren't special, that Christmas isn't special, because they won't appreciate it. All the selves have to, I mean, there is nothing more special than my special day, is there, to me? But it can be really starkly obvious that no day is more special than another, just as no one is special than another. Well, I don't know, but I guess that you may be still thinking that some human beings know more about this than others. Which is probably true. More knowledge, seemingly, more understanding, more clarity. And all of that is totally irrelevant, is all redundant. We're not speaking about knowledge or understanding or clarity or anything else that you think your favorite speakers have some special insight. Oh, there's another one. Self-love's an insight. I'm not saying there can't be insights or knowledge or understanding. I'm just suggesting that it's all empty, wonderfully empty, empty of meaning and significance, importance. And incredibly, that's why I can speak about this as love. The love is the insignificance. Utter neutrality. And the utter neutrality includes all the highs and lows. All the significance is equally insignificant. All the meaning, I'm not saying there aren't things that seem meaningful. I'm saying they don't mean anything. It's not that some human beings or some events aren't more important. Some days aren't more important than others in the story. But you may have noticed what's significant and important to you can be shockingly obvious that is utterly insignificant to anyone else when you're telling your story of significance and importance and what matters. So it doesn't really matter whether it matters or not. I've had quite a few conversations lately with people who are waiting to be no one. Waiting to be like me, you know, no one, a no one. And I make light of it, but of course I know how, I haven't forgotten, or there's not a forgetting of how heavy that waiting feels. And always speaking about the very sense of separation, the very sense of being the seeker, is that waiting to be ready, waiting to be good enough, waiting for an event, waiting for enlightenment, for an awakening, for an insight, for clarity. There is no one to become no one. There's no more no one than there is someone. Because it would need someone to become no one. And there is no becoming. This doesn't become. Becoming is all storytelling. And this isn't a finding. The only finding you could speak about really is finding that there's nothing to find. But that's not really a finding. It's just that there is nothing to find. You could say that everything is already found, but that's not accurate either, because all finding needs a finder. So in speaking about this, none of it is accurate. I mean, that's what enables me to speak about it, or there to be speaking about it, is that I can't get it right. Isn't it wonderful that no one can get life right? I mean, there's no greater love than that. And of course, I long to not be getting life wrong. Most of my life was getting it wrong most of the time and just waiting for those highs of those rare moments when I felt I was getting it right. But there is neither. Right and wrong is just for me.
the past deep in memory. And
so welcome everybody. I did welcome everybody, but I didn't have the recording on, so welcome. And thanks for coming during the holiday. Feel free to ask anything, write it in the chat, or you just share anything if you want to like to share anything. Don't have to ask a question. If you've got something that you'd like me to talk about, you know, a topic, something, then by all means ask that.
Hi there, Tim.
Who's that?
It's Mohammed.
Hi, Mohammed.
Question for you.
Sure.
How does the search actually end? Because the one that you are seeking, obviously you're not going to find, or even find yourself the one that you think you are. So how does that realization come that there is no one here?
Yeah, good question. I don't, well, again, if you speak to different speakers of this, they may say it in a different way, but I would say there is no realization of no one. There is no realization of the absence. There is no absence of what never was. So there is, you could say there is no realization. That's the realization. I mean, it's pretty disappointing. So others would say it differently. And, you know, there was choirs of angels singing, and there was a revelation. But what I'm speaking of is not in any way related to any what you might call awakening or oneness experiences. They're just experiences. And what I'm speaking of is inclusive of all experiencing. So all I can say is here there was no knowing of the absence of the one who would notice the absence. It's very difficult to speak about, but there was no noticing that I wasn't here. The only way that I speak about the absence of the one who was here in the story and then wasn't is by the absence of some of the symptoms, I would say, of me. And so there was this incredible but incredibly ordinary peace that didn't make sense. And the reason, so in that sense, you could call it the peace that passes all understanding. It was to all rational thought and practical, my life was completely fucked. And incredibly, there was an okayness with that didn't make any sense whatsoever. And by fucked, I mean really what I'd feared losing most. You know, so I mean job, relationships, motivation, the things that self really fears oh shit, if that goes, then I'll be really fucked. You know, if I can't get up for work, then I'm screwed. If I can't make it work with her, then I'm done. All those common things. And of course, all those thoughts were still present and they were all okay. Now that does pass all understanding, doesn't it? That's my understanding of what Jesus meant. It doesn't make sense. It's not rational. Regardless of life circumstances for me, for the human being, regardless of those, there is a peace in all circumstances. Now, I know I wanted to make sense of it. And, you know, I spent years seeking that, but it was the very seeking of it that seemingly masked it. That was because in seeking it, of course, it's not present, is it? It's somewhere else. I mean, this is ridiculously simple. All I'm suggesting is that there is only this. And by this, I mean, however this is, however life is, what's turning up, what's occurring. I've watched a bit of Gavin and Stacey over the holiday. That's all there is.
Was there a specific event that happened prior to which you were searching and then the search stopped and you had...
Well, there had been what I'd have called significant events, but no. In this, no, there was no event. There was no recognition. I mean, I could say, this sounds really stupid. I mean, this is past all understanding. I could really honestly say there's still no recognition. There's nothing to be recognized. Now if that doesn't pass all understanding, I don't know what does. So I've been speaking about this seemingly for years now, and there's never been any recognition. What you're waiting for, what self is waiting for, is recognition. I will know when it happens. You fucking won't, is what I want to say. That is the very essence, that's the very energy, the sense of this isn't it. And that's always, I am not speaking about anything else. I mean, I don't have any sense that is spiritual, what I'm speaking about. You know, this is, the spiritual search is no different from the, you know, material search. The energy of this isn't it is me. And of course, in the story of me, I will know when this is it. And what I'm suggesting is you won't know that. There's nothing to be known. Simply because this is entirely known without knowledge or understanding or clarity or recognition or anything else you fantasize that you're waiting. And when you do have that, then it will be. There is no will be. There is nothing that will be. So I often talk about this as the greatest disappointment. This is the ultimate disappointment for self, who's been seeking whatever they've been seeking. But it is the end of seeking.
It's also said in the spiritual circles that the boundaries, this sense of individuated self that we have, it's that there is it and there is everything else. So there is this sort of finite boundary to this imagined self.
Yeah.
In your experience, since that boundary does not actually exist in reality,
yeah,
does that fall away? Do you know that it's fallen away?
No, you don't know that it's fallen away. No, that's what I'm speaking about. That's the not knowing. So the illusion is that you know that you are inside and everything else is outside. That's the whole illusion. Now, in the absence of that, there is nothing to notice because it never was. There is no noticing of it not being. There is only, so you could say, and this, the way that I described it, because I did try and find words to describe it, and the best words I found to describe it was that there was this overwhelming emptiness. And it wasn't that the inside was empty. It wasn't that me was empty and the outside was empty. There was only emptiness. And if there's only emptiness, there is no separation. The illusion is that I am full of me, and so everything else is full of whatever anything else is full of. But it's not me. I'm the only one who's full of me. That's separation. But in the absence of that, no, the only thing that I could say that was undeniable was emptiness. So if there's emptiness, what you called inside, I am. If I am is empty and everything else is empty, there is no inside and outside. I have to put a caveat on it because it just sounds like, okay, so now I'm waiting till I notice emptiness. No, there is no noticing of emptiness. Everything is empty. You know, there's nothing, you can't see nothing. You can't recognize nothing. It's nothing. This is the impossibility of speaking of this. You know, every speaker who I've ever liked listening to, when I was a seeker, everyone I liked listening to always said, this is indescribable. It's not just it's not that it can't be explained, but it can't be described either. Because of course there is no description for emptiness or nothing. Nothing and emptiness, that's as good as we've got. But you can't find them. That's why there's nothing to find. Because it's nothing that's being looked for. And I always loved Tony. I went to Tony Parsons for years. And Tony said, well, if you were trying to hide, where would be the best place to hide? Everywhere. You're never going to find that. And so that it's not a finding. If everything is it, of course, you could say it's found everywhere, but that's not a finding, is it?
No, thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Mohammed. Good question. You see, if I get a question, I talk for England. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we are speaking of emptiness, and emptiness is the most difficult thing to speak of. Impossible. Well, because it's impossible, it's not really difficult. Again, I mean, I don't find it difficult to speak about it because, of course, you can't get emptiness wrong. You really can't.
David has his hand up.
Hello.
David.
Hello.
Yuletide greetings.
No show without punch. I was going to ask something really stupid, actually. Believe it or not. I mean, first of all, just the indescribable thing, just very briefly. I've raised it before, but I love because even that's useless. I mean, unindescribable's probably just as good, actually, isn't it? That's a David Carse one.
That'll do.
Isn't it? It's great. That's a David Carse. Unindescribable. Beautiful. No, it was a silly, I mean, I regret it already. I was just going to lower the tone.
Don't do that.
It's about but it's just how this impacts, you know, kind of a knowledge of this on just everyday opinions and things.
Yeah.
And we know it all just happens. But I can't stand the monarchy. I mean, let's have a laugh here, or not. But I mean, I've always thought it was revolting that the minute you put a fag paper's worth of privilege between one person and another and accept that as okay, the whole system is fucked. And that is why, for me, the UK is just a total, most of it can be traced back to something very, very deep-seated. And I relate that to the monarchy. I'm a Scotsman, of course, but that's got much worse for me. And, you know, but what am I saying? You know, is it possible to be a monarchist and a non-dualist at the same time? Is it that silly a question? But there's a knee-jerk response which is visceral. When the Queen died and all that stuff, I had to go to bed. I felt sick. I was physically, viscerally sick.
Oh, I love it.
So, and I've got you to blame for that, actually, I suppose.
Oh, well, you've made my day.
Do you know what I mean? How it affects. I'm
Do
sure,
I know what you mean? I'm deliberately keeping quiet because if I start,
I'm sure you are. Why? But we know it's a disgrace. But it's not just. I mean, it's not funny. It's funny in some ways, and these Netflix programs and things. But deep at the heart of this is something absolutely pernicious and horrible, and it throws it into a kind of wider. And you're not going to say anything about this. I can see.
I'd say, well,
You're a wimp.
All I'll say is I haven't disagreed with anything you've said. Yeah.
But listen, there might be some monarchists here, and you know
exactly.
And it's we know it's just what's happening. We know that, but I'm talking about in this relative day-to-day sense how a dangerous little bit of knowledge of this thing. Well, it might be a kind of dangerous thing because it's automatically entrenched me in a way that I would take up arms for it now.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be motivated to take up arms. You know, I'd just swear at the TV.
Well,
but yeah, I get how you could be motivated to do that.
But there is I think you can extrapolate from that in some ways. This sense of, you know, so-called injustice, whereas we know there's none, and it's impossible, and blah blah blah. But my views of these things seem to become even more entrenched rather than, well, that's just the way it's going.
Well, and interestingly, I would say my views are more entrenched.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be more vocal about them.
Right.
But equally, I couldn't give a shit about them either. So it's really odd, actually, because I would say, if you ask me, I'll tell you straight how I feel about it. And they wouldn't be much different to yours.
Mm-hmm.
But would I be bothered to do anything about it? No. I
think you make a good point there, actually.
So, you know, would I go? So one thing that has fallen away completely is any desire to ever go and campaign for anything.
Yeah,
it's dead.
And
yet, opinions are just. So what I did find repugnant, I find even more repugnant than ever.
That's exactly not what I hoped you would say, but you've made a kind of wider point, because my views of royalty, look, I'm not going to take arms up against anybody. I
can't see you with a pitchfork in the street.
It's just the dissonance seems massive, you know, because I don't give a shit, actually. I mean, less than ever. But, you know, in tandem with that, there's this ferocious kind of anger. I mean, it's almost funny, you know. But I think, you know,
I'm very much the same. So if it's on the TV, I'm swearing. If I often have to turn it over because I'm too abusive, and then it's gone. I couldn't give a shit.
No, I think that's fine. And no, you made the point well, I think. And I was hoping to get more of a laugh out of it, but still, we did.
We certainly know where you stand on the money.
Okay, good. Nice to see you again.
And you.
Thank you.
Oh, Mala has a hand up.
Hi, Marla.
Hello again, Tim.
Hi.
Following from what Mohammed has actually said as well in yesterday's conversation, there is this desperate need to kind of want to know where I'm at. So, hey, you know, God, I finally managed to stamp that flag on the top of the Himalayan mountain and said, yeah, got it. But the more you deal with this thing, it's become quite apparent that there is no such thing really, because so I'm going to try and rephrase the question in another way. When a thought arises, right, any thought,
yeah,
I seem to have two flavors, you know. One, a very heavy flavor, the heavy flavor, very tedious, very painful, very, just want to get rid of it, feels like the me. And then there's another flavor, which is completely silent and completely silent, completely peaceful, and completely nothing. So when you have this split, right, how do you deal with this split? You know, because you're not there and you can't control thoughts and thoughts are not your own, how are you supposed to know what's what, apart from just the pure resonance that, oh, that filthy little, that uncomfortable heaviness is definitely me, because me is just so tedious and wants all the attention. And the other thing is, it doesn't seem to care about anything, and it's completely vacuum. It's a complete vacuum. There's just nothing there. And sometimes you can actually see yourself collapsing into it, and then you become, it becomes really scary, and you become nothing, you know. Yeah. But you can't actually feel it for some unknown reason. You could see it, but you can't feel it. So does this right-hand thing talk to the left-hand thing, and this left-hand thing talk to the right-hand thing? And how are you supposed to know what's what? And how do you deal with that thought, you know? How do you go to the next moment, you know? Drives me nuts, Tim. It drives me nuts. Yeah. I hope I tried to explain it the best way.
Oh no, you've explained it well. But you're asking me how to deal with it. I don't know. I mean, this is not any solution. This is not a recommendation of how to deal with thoughts, or deal with emotions, or deal with behavior, or deal with anything.
So you just let it?
No.
Because you're not.
It's not letting it. Because letting it is just another sneaky way for me to deal with it. Oh, I'm letting it be.
Yeah, because then you create a triplicate, isn't it? A triplicate will then try to squash it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it doesn't matter. But I don't have any recommendations about how to deal with thoughts or emotions or behaviors. That's all in the realm of therapy. This
emptiness that you talk about, is there something in that?
No, there is nothing in that. Exactly that. There is nothing in that, no.
So there's nothing in either of what I've said?
Well, there isn't, right. They're not. So just the very fact of you're saying there is, you've said left and right, you know, so you're in this conflict. So you've got two conflicting ways of being, you could say. So there's this heavy working out being, and then there's this total emptiness being. Well, there is no separation between those two. All the heavy, full thoughts are equally as empty as that absolute emptiness.
And there's no participation at all, is there?
Well, if there's a feeling that there is a participant, then there is. But it's, again, that's empty as well. That's by empty, I just mean it doesn't mean anything.
So can you ignore it? Is there such a thing of?
Well, you can attempt to ignore it. I mean, the attempts to ignore it are just another way of trying to manage and, you know, sort it out. So I wouldn't recommend ignoring, no. Any more I would than focusing. One's not better than the other. Because we're not talking about, because we're not talking about getting a result. You know, this isn't a result. I mean, the most devastating, if this is obvious, this is totally devastating for self, that there is nothing is a result of anything else. You know, there is no causality. It leaves self totally bereft. There's nowhere to go if there is no causality. You know, so I can't recommend that. There is seeming causality, and there's plenty of people you could go to speak to would help you manage thoughts, and maybe a course of acceptance or surrender, and then, or, you know, or even greater analysis. You could go either way.
But I tried those things. I know that none of those things, because once you've heard this message, you cannot go back to anything else. It's impossible. I don't know why I say that, but I say that with, you know, a 2000% conviction. It's impossible to go back to any of those other things, because there's something in this that
I mean, really, and the thing that's in this
does something. I don't know what it does, but it's impossible to go back to it, because this is very final. This is
yeah, I mean, and again, you can't get more paradoxical. This is final, but final sounds like an ending, and this isn't an ending at all. This is without end. You could say there's only ending, but then there is no ending. There's only beginning, and ending and beginning are not two. It just leaves you nothing. It leaves you nowhere to go. This begins and ends with no space between. So where are you going to go?
Oh, it's in glimpses. It's made it obvious there's nowhere to go. It's
yeah.
But it's this false energy that comes back and say, oh, there is somewhere to go. You know, let's try again. You know, get lost and go away. You know, there's nothing to try again. You know, it is annoying. There's. I think because we're so conditioned to finding a path, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything on this planet is a path. Everything. This is the only thing that hasn't got a path. So it's quite a mammoth task, or no task, to
the most amazing thing
unravel it, isn't it?
That all the paths are okay, you know. I mean, that's amazing. That is incredible. I mean, I'm not trying to dissuade anyone to get off the path that they're on. Not at all.
It's a very beautiful message, Tim. It's a beautiful message that never ever leaves you, does it? lingers somehow. It doesn't bring you happiness. It doesn't.
No, it really doesn't. I think that's a really good point, Marla.
I think that's what humans
I'm
are
not speaking about happiness, no.
Yeah, you think it will bring you ultimate peace and happiness, but it actually all that's left really, which is right before your very eyes, isn't it? And then everything happens automatically by some incredible, magical way, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, something jumps in and says, oh, did I do that? Did I do that? Did I do that? And wow, you know, but there's no such thing, is it? So that's tough, you know, that's tough, Tim. So.
Well, when you've been waiting for miracles all your life, when everything is a miracle, of course, there are no miracles. That can be incredibly disappointing when you've been waiting for a miracle.
There's no miracle.
No, if this is all there is, and I mean, it's miraculous beyond comprehension, then of course, what we might call a miracle is no more miraculous than what we call the most mundane, ordinary event. It's all equally incomprehensible, so it's miraculous. And so that's the end of waiting as well. Of course, you can't be waiting for a miracle if everything's a miracle.
Can you describe what happens to you when you make a cup of coffee in the morning, Tim?
It wouldn't be very interesting.
Go on. I'll close it.
Just,
I open the jar, take a teaspoon, put coffee in.
Yeah, if only I could make coffee the way Tim makes coffee. No.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Marla.
Thank you.
I was thinking about what you're saying about, you know, there's no place to go, no space in between the beginning and ending, and I was thinking about the birthdays, you know, the special days. Really, even days it feels like a story too.
Oh, days
and the beginning and ending and space in between, all of that story is just a story. But Linda in the chat says, "Hi Tim, it's including the story, isn't it?"
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, no, you won't. Amazingly, as well, each stories are much easier than ever before. Because all you're left with is stories. That's all that there is. All this is story. So this is the story, that everything is just a story. And this is the story that all we have are stories. If we take the stories away, there is just nothing.
Yeah. And Linda says, can we ever know the truth in the story?
No, don't be ridiculous. But of course you can say, I know the truth, because self loves that. And that's what the truth is. The truth is, I love being right. And so self loves the truth. And of course, in order for my truth to be the truth, which is all the truth ever is, I have to make you wrong most of the time. Because how will I be right if you're not wrong, if we disagree?
And Linda says, I always feel like I am overlooking something.
No, there's nothing to be overlooked. How on earth can all there is be overlooked? This is wherever you look, wherever looking is, that's it. That's it. So rather than there being this and that, so I know this, that's the illusion. I know this. And because I know it, this isn't it. Because I'm waiting for something I don't know yet. I know this. Bollocks. You don't know this. You know tiny little, tiny little scraps of knowledge, you know, it's pathetic. I mean, human knowledge is pathetic, really. And yet, self takes it to be, you know, godlike status of knowledge and understanding. So I know this, and so this can't be it, because I'm looking for this is mundane, ordinary, known. I'm looking for the extraordinary, the special, the wonderful, the blissful, whatever else has been imagined. And so I make that. So I have this and that, this that's known and that that's not, and that is what I'm waiting for. And what I want to say is there is no that. Anything you call that is this. This and that. I can't help but laugh that this and that are not two. That's non-duality. And I love it that in Indian Advaita, I mean, they never used the word this, they always said that. I find that hilarious, you know, so you're looking for that. And of course, if you listen to Tim Cliss or, I don't know, whoever else you listen to, then you start looking for this. Because I know that. So that is this is that. That's that. Done. And then simply, and that's not a finding, as I emphasized earlier. There is no, so I'm saying that is this. There isn't a that or a this. So it doesn't matter whether you call it this or that. And the other thing, of course, the only one who's interested in this and that is me and you. Isn't that funny? And so life is incredibly light. And I don't mean it's without pain. I don't mean it's without suffering. I don't mean it's without everything that makes up being human. Life is fully human. That's why I don't have any sense of this being spiritual. Spirituality to me has always just been escapism. I don't want to be just this body. I must be more than this. Well, turns out you're a fucking lot less, not more. And in the less, what is, which is being human, is in all its glory, gloriously being human, with all the sorrow, as well as the joy. So I think some people still come to non-duality thinking it's some kind of escapism, some kind of escape route. There is no route. There is no one to escape. That's the liberation. There's no one. So you are the prisoner. You are the jailer. You are the prison cell. All of which is imagined. And of course, being imprisoned only exists if there is freedom somewhere else. So paradoxically, the freedom is that there is no escape. That's why this message is not popular. All the popular messages are all messages or paths to escaping. Whatever you've said, well, I don't like this about life, and that's what I'm going to escape from.
David's back from building his guillotine. Go ahead, David.
Okay, who's first up against the wall? Who are we going to...
No, I'm just going to lower the tone again. I love pop music with all this stuff. I think, that, you know, we know that words don't do much, but there's some great writers. Today I was listening to something I thought we'd share in respect of this notion of the intellect and knowledge and things, you know, where it fits in here. And this is very tangential, but I think it's a brilliant song that I didn't know before. It's called Genius by a genius called Warren Zevon. Have you heard of him?
No.
Oh, I'm envious.
Darren, you knew? No.
I'm envious. This could change your life forever. For me, who cares? But I think he's the greatest songwriter of the last century.
Oh, you bigged him
but
up.
no, really, no. I mean, maybe by some way, actually, in his own way. But you have to hear the whole thing. But it's just a beautiful song about genius. And one verse I'll just share. Albert Einstein was a ladies' man when he was working on his universal plan. He was making out like Charlie Sheen. He was a genius. It's great. I mean, it's just people like him, whether you like him or not, they are tapped into this. Without a doubt. I mean, the work is so rooted in that kind of worldview. I mean, they're very, very flawed. And that's what I like about them, because we don't project all our perfection onto them.
Right.
I mean, Zevon was a drug addict, a sex addict, all these things that don't really mean much, but very, very much in touch with certain things. So that's a wee bit tangential, but it's just this notion of the intellect and how we hold it in such high esteem. Mm-hmm. He's more taken by the fact that the guy was making out like Charlie Sheen. He was he was a genius. You need to read it in context. It's very beautiful.
Well, I'll be listening to that then.
Werewolves of London. That was a famous one. But, okay, thanks. That's
thanks,
me.
David.
Yeah.
Oh, that pinging was Darren pinging the song. Shall we play it? No. Well, has anyone else got anything else they'd like to share or ask anything? Or we'll have 10 more minutes, I think.
David. David has his hand up.
Hi, David.
Yeah.
Hi. It's just a beautiful thing to sit here in silence and have nothing more to say, because it's just how it is right now. A miracle. Every moment is a miracle. And so there are no miracles.
Yeah.
I have appreciated everything that has been shared by everyone here this evening, because each experience is beautiful, even though it is just a story.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult for anyone to accept who is trying to be something.
Yeah.
You know. But releasing it and seeing it go, that's all I ever noticed, was that the story kind of went bye-bye.
But you can still tell the story, David.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can bore you for hours with but you know,
Yeah.
and it's just the art of telling a story, and that's fun too. You know,
Yeah.
Life has a new joy every moment, and you got to let go of last moment in order to notice it. I guess if I have any one pet saying, it's let go of everything. Erase all your statistics. Face every moment with null and null, nothing to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, David.
What about we singing a song for Darren? And you are a good singer, Tim, so you can sing.
I'm a good singer.
Yeah.
What where have you got that? I've never sung for you, have I?
Yes, you have. A lot of time.
Have I? Oh. Bloody hell.
Okay, I will start. It's okay.
Must have been after I've been
1, 2, 3.
Chris,
Happy birthday
to you.
Oh, come on.
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday, Darren.
Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
Happy birthday.
We feel so special now. Thanks, Annette.
You're welcome.
Will has his hand up.
Hi, Will.
Hi, Tim. In some of Tony Parsons' meetings, he would sometimes say something along the lines of, when you walk outside onto the high street, right, that door, the street arises. You know, there's nothing else other than this. And when you walk out the door, that's what arises. Is that how it feels to you there? Or it's peculiar, because he used to say that sort of thing a lot.
Yeah, well, I don't think I never say such things.
No.
No, and the reason I say it because it's stating the bleeding obvious. It's so fucking obvious. I can't see the street. It's not arising. I walk out and it arises. I mean, I don't think it needs to be said.
Yeah.
No, he is only. I mean, that isn't it. I can remember sitting in meetings when he said such things, by the way.
Yes.
You know, like, you didn't travel here today because, you know, it's not, you know, where is getting?
Yeah, you didn't get on that train.
No, you didn't get on the train. You didn't drive here. You didn't walk in the door, because he's saying it's not here. You know, it's not rising. So it's not apparent. It's just a memory of it. And I mean, I don't never speak about that because it's just so obvious.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not disputing it. It's obviously true. It's the most basic truth. So it's not that there isn't a memory. All there is of arriving wherever you're sitting is a memory of arriving where you're sitting.
Yeah. But then
all that there is experience of sitting. Yeah.
But if I was to say that to most people, if I was to say to most people that there's no street outside, they go, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Of course there's a street outside.
Because most people are the story, because the story has to be real for me.
Yeah.
That's why. So really all he was pointing to, or trying to maybe get some revelation of, okay, it is just memory. That is the all I have is the story of arriving here today. There is nothing else.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't ever say that because it doesn't come up as anything significant to say, really.
No, it's interesting because I mean, sometimes even when I've been looking at something, say it's the sun shining on an object through a window, sometimes it's gone, there's been no concept of the sun shining. It's just been self-illuminating. It's like the story, the idea that the sun is shining through the window and it's lighting something up is just a story. It's actually just lit. So it's almost seeing it like a baby would see it in a way. There's no concept of, oh, there's a sun up there and the light shining through a window and lighting that up. So
Interestingly, you don't have to get rid of the story though for that.
No, I know. Yeah.
That to be obvious, they can exist. They can coexist. You could say that.
Yes.
You can have the story explanation of how this light works. You know. You can remember your science lesson of light waves, and you can go into the story even. But there can also be equally obvious that that's just a story, and what there is just the spectacle, you could say.
Yes.
Just the
I thought I had to get rid of, sometimes I thought I've got to get rid of that story because it's not the reality. The reality is that's just the story, but it's you don't have to get rid of the story.
No, it's a terrible story that a terrible story of enlightenment is that the story is the problem.
Yes.
I can't emphasize enough that stories are not a problem.
Yeah.
It's all we have. We don't have anything else. I mean, life without a story, it's all very well saying like a baby, but you're an adult human being who's it'd be fucking useless being a baby.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you might enjoy breastfeeding, Will, but you know, you wouldn't be able to bring in the dosh.
No.
And this isn't about becoming anything other than, you know, the story isn't a problem, no.
Right.
The seeming problem is that the story has to be real. For me, that's when most human beings won't go near this, because I mean, this message really just undermines the reality of the story. I don't mean as a real story. It's a real story, but that's as far as the reality goes.
Yes.
But without the stories, then we have nothing.
We're quite good at storytelling. Yeah, it's quite good. Humans are quite good at
And of course, if everything is just a story, then everything is, all the stories are liberated as well. Because there aren't true stories and false stories.
Yeah.
There's just stories.
Yeah, that's quite beautiful, really, isn't it?
It's really beautiful. There's great freedom in that.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you'll like the stories that you don't like. This is liberation for preference for stories as well. So you will still like David still loves the story that the monarchy are evil and they're, you know, to be reviled. That preference for that as a judgment of that story will probably be more pronounced. But equally, amazingly, you wouldn't give a shit about it being more pronounced. So the fact that it sounds contradictory, but that is the freedom. The freedom is that there's just a story, and there's great freedom to dislike the stories you dislike.
Good.
and really love the stories that you love.
Great, thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I was just thinking as well, there are so many different stories about this, so many different ways. Some people speak about it so colorfully and it's like a poetic, and then other people speak about it really ordinarily, and they feel equally, you know, you can listen to the poetic, beautiful one and go, oh yeah. And you listen to the other one, it's like, oh yeah, it's really ordinary. It's also this kind of amazing, beautifully poetic description. But if they're seeking, words like arising, or the word street is arising, can be grabbed onto like, oh, there's a special word. That sounds like a special word, like something different is happening, you know? So, and everyone hears all the words differently.
Yeah.
And tries to like, oh, I need to find that, whatever that is or what that's like. But it's just a story about this.
Isn't it beautiful that, stories.
Yeah.
That's why I don't mind, you know, turning up every week and talking shit about it, seeming like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. Isn't that lovely? Unless you want to know the truth. If you still want to know the truth, you best fuck off. Oh, it is the end. So lucky you. But, you know, we're not speaking about a truth. We're just saying it's unknowable. Which is nowhere near as bad as it sounds. It is terrible for me because I am the need to know. I am, because that'll save me. Well, there's no one to be saved. How wonderful you don't need saving. Not even from yourself. Well, thank you very much for coming. I've really enjoyed it. I don't know why I had 2 weeks off. I'll be here next week, 7 p.m. next Thursday. Thanks very much for coming. It's a pleasure to see you all. And Happy New Year. See you in the new year. Where's that? I mean, that's talk about arbitrary. New Year, that is funny. Because day and night, we can accept that. One's dark, one's light. That's pretty obvious. New Year, bullshit. A year doesn't end and start. There are years. I'm going to give some, seasons. Give some credence to that story.
Really, it should be after the 21st. That's the new year, really. Days start getting lighter.
It would be rational.
Make more sense.
Yeah. Well,
it used to be.
You need, paganism. Come, bring it back. Winter solstice, that would be the new year, yeah. Right, lovely to see you all. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye-bye.